What is your personal leadership philosophy?
I like to think that leaders have followers. It's a pretty simple definition, which is, if you're leading and everybody is only following you because you said so, because it's your role, it's your title, do what I say. I don't really think that kind of a person is a leader. For me, leadership is about having a group of people who follow you and follow your direction, the way that you want to go willingly. For me, that's the definition of what a leader is like. And also, leadership is a role. Just because you see yourself as a leader at work doesn't mean that in the home kitchen where you're not the cook, that you're a leader as well. You're not. You're the follower. If my partner in the kitchen tells me dice an onion, I ask her how small, because I'm not the leader in the kitchen. So leadership is a role. It's not you. It's not all the time. It's just in this context with this group of people, you're the person helping to direct where people should go. And I think that's very important, which is that people are following your direction willingly.
Yeah, I like that. One of the things I noticed looking at your work on some of your work online, one of the things you teach is Jennifer Kahnweiler's leadership framework. And so this was one of the early people I came across. You mentioned Susan Cain. That was work that really changed my life, changed my perspective on so many things, and really brought me to more acceptance or just understanding about my personality. And a lot of light bulbs, a whole box of light bulbs went off and
Same as me,
from that work. Yeah. And then Jennifer Kahnweiler is another one who's come up with at least one. I think there are multiple books about leadership for introverts. So tell me a little bit about this framework, how you use it, and anything else related to that.
Yeah, of course. I loved Jennifer's book. Her book, Introverted Leader, is actually sitting over here. I love that book. Very practical, very easy to apply. When I was writing my own book, I wanted my book to be like hers, very much so. Funny story, I think in the book, she self-proclaims that she's an extrovert herself, but married to an introvert, and yet she's somehow built a huge career around trying to help introverts, which I think is really cool. Mm-hmm. But within the book, she talked about the 4 Ps framework, which I really like. And the 4 Ps are these. They are prepare, practice, push, and presence. So 4 Ps. And how she uses those 4 Ps is in all the skills, all the things, all the habits that she's helping people learn. You can categorize them into one of these 4 Ps. You have prepare, which are the habits that you can and things that you can do beforehand. In my experience working with introverts and quiet achievers, we are amazing preppers. So we will put in the work beforehand. We will overthink it times 2. We will do all the prep. So I don't think quiet people have a problem with preparation. But preparation is one of the things you can do to be ready. The second one is practice. Practice is really doing it in real life. For example, when it comes to public speaking, rehearsing the talk in your head is not practice. Saying it out loud and in real life and practicing it for real, that's practice. The third P is push. Because with any kind of growth, you have to push yourself a little. You have to find out where the boundaries of your comfort zone are. Because in order to grow, you have to first stretch yourself. And yes, it might feel a little bit uncomfortable, but you're not going to the point where you break. You're just trying to push against the boundaries a little bit. And that's important if you want to grow. Otherwise, you'll always stay the same size. And then the last one is presence. The reason why you prepare, the reason why you push, the reason why you practice beforehand is because in that moment itself, you want to be 100% present. You don't want to be in a meeting thinking about the next thing that you want to say and not really staying present and listening to the conversation that's happening. So I really like these 4 Ps framework because it really encapsulates the different kinds of things that you can do in order to get better at a skill like public speaking. Out of these 4 Ps, I have to say the most important P for me if you forget about the other three, the most important P for me is practice. Practice, 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 practice all the time. It could be a talk. It could be coming up with small talk topics. It could be any of the things that you find challenging as a quieter person. If you practice and you do none of the other three things, you're going to get better at that skill. And when I say practice, again, it's really practicing for real. Like, for example, if you're giving a speech, preparing to give a talk at a meeting, a presentation, say it out loud in private.
Excellent. And for me, the preparation comes naturally, the practice, doing it for real, aloud. But if you're in a more unpredictable situation, like a meeting or potentially a confrontation, you may not be able to fully prepare or practice your way to that. And that's where the ability to stay present in that becomes really key.
Yeah, super key. How many times have I spoken to introverts when they are put on the spot? And for those who are listening who don't know it, this is what it feels like. Like when you're put on the spot, all of a sudden, all of the eyes in the room turn around and they're looking at you. And I think scientifically that triggers like a flight or flight response where all of a sudden the blood just drains from your face and you start feeling cold. You might even feel the cold bead of sweat coming down your brow. And then all of a sudden that brilliant idea that you had in your head is gone. Because now you're just staring at all these other eyes that are looking right back at you and you don't know what to say. It happens more common than you would think. The only difference these days is that I know this feeling is going to come for me. It's not that it's disappeared completely. I just know that it's going to come. And the fact that I know that it's going to come, I can better manage it. And there are also, once you can do that, once you can get yourself to this much more balanced emotional state, then everything comes back to skills again of how you can help you think on the spot, how things that you can buy you a little bit more time to process your thinking.
Shift gears a little bit, starting off the bat from the beginning, we have to introduce ourselves to people. And so you have a framework for that, coming in, a couple different approaches. Could you talk a little bit about that?
When it comes to introducing yourself, what I found is that introductions for me come in three sizes. To keep it simple, let's just call them small, medium, and large. Small introduction is you introducing yourself in one breath, in 20 words or less. And why you need a small introduction, you can use this in situations where you're networking and you're meeting somebody for the first time. In my past, when I was networking and meeting somebody for the first time and I was introducing myself, I'll be going on, "Hi, my name is Tim. I'm a product designer. I work in tech for the last 20 years. After a while, you start to see people glaze over because in some ways you're telling them more than they are interested to know in that moment. And I find that with a small introduction, if you can say it in one breath in 20 words or less, it's almost like a movie trailer. It's meant to pique people's interests. It's meant to tell people a little bit about who you are. And then it allows them to ask interesting follow-up questions after. So I might say, "Hi, I'm Tim, and I walk dogs in groups of 3 or less, and I return them home tired and happy. I'm Tim. I'm a small business owner, and I build websites for small businesses without spending crazy money." It's enough to tell people what you do and what you do for a living. And it lets them ask interesting questions after if they want to. And that's what a small introduction will be good for. The second introduction might be a large introduction. This is where you can go into a lot more detail. You might be using a large introduction at an interview. What are the first 4 words that you hear most often in an interview when it starts? It's "tell me about yourself." This is the best place to use a large intro because you're going to have a monologue for about 4 to 5 minutes. You want to be able to tell people the broadest picture of who you are, the broadest picture of the work that you've done, so that later on for the rest of the 55 minutes in the 1-hour interview, people can dig deeper because now you've given them this broad picture of everything you've done in your career, your notable achievements. And then you got the rest of the 55 minutes to talk about everything else. So that's where you can use a large intro. And then somewhere in between is what I call a medium intro. A medium intro might be about a minute or two long. Maybe you're joining the company on your first day and they are introducing different people around the room who are new as well. You're not the main attraction, you are just one of the new people. Whether it's a small, medium, or whether it's a large introduction, the key thing here is this. This is a part of the conversation that usually happens at the start. So that means a few things. If you start well, you're more likely to end well. Number two, first impressions last, in my opinion. If you introduce yourself well, people will have, at the start of conversation, already have a good opinion of you. So it pays to actually practice. And the third thing I'll say is this introduction that you do for yourself, out of the whole conversation, this is one part of the conversation that you are most in control of. You're the most in control because other people are not introducing you. You are introducing yourself. And so it pays to actually practice because it's going to be a monologue. You're going to tell people about who you are. So being able to practice this will actually be a really good thing for you because you're going to do this all of the time when you meet new people.
And I think psychologically, when you get off on the right foot and you tell something humorous or interesting about yourself, people respond, then you're more comfortable. And that kind of puts the whole conversation in a positive trajectory for yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
Another thing that is a really common set of questions I get asked about are meetings. And I spend a large portion of my day in meetings. So what advice do you have for quieter folks about meetings?
My gosh. If you are an organizer of a meeting, the number one thing that you can do that will make everyone's life better is to make sure that you send an agenda. How many meetings have I been to in my career where the meeting barely even has a title? It's kind of like, we're going to meet at this time, see you then, bye. It's not good, not just for quiet people, it's bad for everyone because people don't often know what you're going to talk about, what you're going to discuss. And if you don't know, then your only option is to show up. You can't bring all the data. You can't do your thinking beforehand. Who says that the best thinking is only done on the spot? People think in different ways. Quieter people I've seen like to prepare. So why not give people a chance to do that beforehand? Why put them on the spot and force and squeeze the best out ideas of them only in that moment? If there's anything that you can do to make everyone's life better, make sure that you send an agenda. Doesn't have to be too detailed. At least tell people what you want to talk about in the time that you have. And then people like myself or other quieter people who like to prepare can. And once they prepare, then they can be present, just like in Jennifer Kahnweiler's framework. When they prepare beforehand, they can come to that meeting, they can be 100% present to actually listen to the conversation and actually participate. So if you're wondering why people are quiet in your meetings and they're not jumping in with what they think, it might be because you didn't give them time beforehand to prepare what to talk about. I find that if you do give them that chance to tell them what you want to talk about beforehand, then people are more likely to open up, because they have something to contribute. And then when they're there, they're more likely to be listening rather than thinking about what they want to talk about.
Do you have any advice for standing meetings? And maybe the same advice applies in topic-specific meetings. Sometimes it's easier to come up with the agenda. But for team meetings, having an agenda in advance still could be something that you do, the team puts together a few days before and then can show up prepared.
Yeah, of course. I mean, whether it's a standing agenda, whether it's a brainstorming workshop, giving people some inkling of what's going to be discussed, how they can actually contribute to that meeting is always a good thing. Having some kind of script that will actually let people say, don't go off script. This is a team meeting. We're supposed to be sharing updates. These are the key things that you want to nail. Everything else we can discuss after. Having some kind of script that people can follow is always a good thing. also that synchronous time. A meeting is synchronous. It is a time that is best used to discuss things. It is not meant to be a time where you have a monologue. If you're going to have a monologue, then it's probably, there might be an email, there might have been an asynchronous conversation that happens on Slack or chat beforehand. If you're having a monologue in a meeting and you're the only one speaking, maybe there are other mediums for you to be choosing to communicate. Because the time that you have together in a synchronous meeting, especially if you're working across time zones, it's going to be too early or too late for somebody on the call. You want to treat that time that you are together very preciously so that you actually use that time to maybe brainstorm, to actually talk about ideas, talk about things that maybe you're not seeing on your own. So always treasure that time. If you actually treat that time as if it's a treasure, I think you will find that you might run those meetings differently, that you would use that meeting time for truly important things, and everything else can find some other way of communicating that's not during that time.
Yeah, that's a really good insight.